Well, welcome to Mazévo Connect. We do these every month, typically on the last Thursday of the month, which this month happens to fall on Halloween. How cool is that? Hopefully, everybody's got fun Halloween plans for today. Anyways, we'll be getting started with our main topic here in just a few minutes. If you haven't been to one of these before, welcome. We typically run these in a format where we introduce the main topic and our speaker. Today, our speakers are all going to be from Mazévo, and we're going to be covering questions and answers that some of you have submitted to us ahead of time, as well as other common questions that we get through the Mazévo support lines and things that we've heard that customers ask us about over and over again. We're going to be bringing those up. But also, if you came to this call and you have some burning questions that you just want to get some answers to around Mazévo, of course, then we would love it if you would just answer or ask those as well. You can either unmute yourself for those, or you can type them into the chat there and submit your questions that way. But all questions are welcome. But we do have several that we'll be going through to kind of get things started, and then I'll open it up to anybody that has additional questions that they want to ask that way. But yeah, so we're going to be getting started. I want to welcome, we have a couple of new Mazévo customers that we've brought on board in the month of October. I don't know if they're on the call here or not, but I do want to say hi to University of Pennsylvania Annenberg School of Communications. They just actually signed up today, so they're our newest Mazévo customer. And then we also have the Stanford University Graduate School of Education that's coming on board as well. So great to see them joining the Mazévo family here. So let's see. One other thing too I will mention before we get going is if you ask a question and it's about, hey, can Mazévo do X, Y, or Z? Maybe it's a certain function or feature, and and maybe it's not something that Mazévo does. It's really helpful, whether or not Mazévo does it, if you give us a little bit of context around what you're trying to accomplish, rather than just saying, hey, can Mazévo do this? It's like, I want to accomplish this, or I'm having this challenge. That's why I'm asking if Mazévo can do this or whatever. Giving us some additional context is always helpful in those cases, because sometimes we can brainstorm other ideas or ways for you to solve the problem that you're looking to solve that way. Also, along that same line, I will mention our next Mazévo Connect, our final one for the year, is probably going to be scheduled in early December, because the last Thursday of November, if I remember correctly, falls on Thanksgiving. So not a lot of people would be able to attend that. So we're going to push it out probably about a week. So stay tuned for that. But the topic of that Mazévo Connect is going to be what we're planning for 2025 as far as new features. And we're also going to ask people to come with any ideas or suggestions for us, things that they think would be great to incorporate in Mazévo. So stay tuned for that. So if you have some, actual feature requests and things like that on this call, you could save them for that one as well, because we will specifically be addressing those at that point. So all right. Well, with that said, the way I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to read some of the questions that people have submitted ahead of time. And either Dean or Joe is going to help me with answering those today. So let's go ahead and just jump right into them here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so those guys can take over, and let me pull up my questions. All right. Okay. So first question is coming from the University of Illinois. This was a question submitted by Julie. She's asking if it's possible to run a report indicating how many events or bookings happen after 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, or how many events happen on weekends in specific rooms. So she just wanted to know if there's a way to do that. And so Dean's got that one all queued up, and he's going to jump in and show you how you
Let me
might.
go ahead and share my screen here. So the way you're going to do that, we don't have a statistical report for that, but if you go to Find Events and you go to Advanced, and I'm going to change this to next month. What you want to do is there's two filters that you really want to look at, and they're all the way at the bottom. So you can come in here and there's time of day, and I'll check that, and days of week, and I'll check those. Um, and then when you hit add, you now get these filters. So we're going to look at all events next month. We're going to display bookings, and these are our columns. I want to find everything that occurs after 5 o'clock. Now, it basically could start at 3 o'clock and go past 5 o'clock, but it crosses the 5 o'clock boundary there. And then your days of week is right here. So if you're looking for things on Friday that are after 5, you would just uncheck those. So that kind of answers both of those questions. When I hit run, you're going to get here's everything on Friday that goes past 5 o'clock. So that would be the way we could get that. So you could export that into Excel right here, but you have 21 bookings that you're looking at right there. So, Julie, I think you're on here. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Excellent. All right, thanks, Dean. So this next question, we've been getting a few questions rolling in around the new services tab under Manage Operations. Essentially, people are wanting to know, should I be using that instead of the Bookings tab? What's the difference? Why is that there? Things like that. So do you want to talk to that, Dean?
Sure. So let me go into Manage Operations. So for you on the call that don't use this, that's probably a bigger thing. For the folks that use operations, uh, this services tab is relatively new. It's probably a month or two old. So let me just kind of give you an overview of this whole thing. So when you're looking at services, if you were the person in charge of AV, you'd probably want to come up here to settings. You'd want to select your locations, what buildings, what statuses you're concerned with. You probably don't want canceled events in here. And then what service providers you really want to deal with. So I've got AV checked here. So that kind of limits the view of what you're seeing here. So this, when it says only show my service providers, these are bookings that have AV in my locations for my statuses. Now, to see what's going on, you're going to click on one of these bookings and open it up. And then right here, you're seeing facilities, audiovisual, and room setup. So that's the standard booking screen. Now, the service screen explodes that, and it's going to take each one of those services. So, setup, furniture, AV for each booking and expand it into its own line in the grid. And so, when I open this up, say, show me everything, you're seeing each booking appear here in that first one 3 times, one with facilities, audio visual, and setup. Now, if I do this and say just limit it to my service providers I picked under settings, we're now down to just AV. So it cuts out the noise of all of the other stuff going on each booking. And so when I drill into one of these, all I see is AV. And I can still mark it as in progress or complete, but it's much less noise and distraction of all the other stuff. If your AV person doesn't care about room setup or catering, this might be a useful way of getting to that. So the other thing that will happen here is if you're using services or you've assigned work, it's all those will show up here, and it's a little bit more visible than on this particular panel. And back over here on services, it's showing you has that service been started. So let me go into this first one and I'll just say start this. and it'll put my name on it. Well, not because I'm a manager, but now it says in progress. To find that same thing over here, you'd have to come over and hover over the icon to see that. Okay. So it just it just kind of explodes all the bookings into each individual service, and then you can see them a little bit easier. Although that being said, I did have somebody say, well, wait a minute, if I want to see if you've got one person that's doing multiple things, like they're putting AV in there, they're putting the tables and chairs, and they're setting up the room, then now they have to click into each one of these to get that. So it's probably better suited if you have more granular service providers in what they do. So, all right, Brian.
All right, thanks, Dean. So this next question is about the new set a deadline on a question feature. We have somebody that's using that wants to start using that anyways, but they're curious about, if I use the set a deadline on a question, how do I know if people have actually answered my question or not? Do you want to explain that?
Sure. Well, let's start with, how do you put a question how do you even get one of these things on there as a deadline? So let me open up. Well, I don't have any events there. Let me just go in and find something for today. Let's go to this community life. Let's go to our debate club meeting. And we look here and we have event questions. So these were questions that we asked the requester. So Claire put this in as a requester. If I want to ask an additional question, I just add a question here. And then I might come over here and you get to pick which question you want to ask them. Maybe it's like, what kind of food will you be? I'm just making up an example here. What kind of food will you be serving? This is the secret. Do you want to notify the requester? Yes. And then when do you want it to be due? And let's scroll back out here and let's give them a couple days when I hit save. So when I hit save, it's send an email to Claire saying you need to answer this question. And so how you monitor that is back here under data glance. You would come in here and there's a special section here called unanswered questions. And then here are the questions that we're waiting for responses. And you can see we sent that email out here. And so this would tell you whether it's complete or not right here. So, but that's how you would find out, have they answered the question. So,
Okay. Great. Is there a way to let requesters copy their own events?
yes. It's optional. Let me show you how you would copy it first. So a requester is going to get to my events. I don't have any current events. We only actually let you copy old events that have or in the past. And the copy option is right here. Now, this is something that you can turn on and off by the security policy. So if I wanted to copy this meeting here, I simply hit copy and I give it a new start date. And let's see, it's going to enforce the policy. So I can only copy it forward. And so let's go to November 7th and make the copy. And so it's showing you, here's the booking. So if you have multiple bookings, it would copy those. It's going to copy services as well. And then next, and it's going to ask you any questions that you need to answer here. And I'll just say none, and then copy my request. And so it's going to go back into a request status. Well, it should have gone into a request status. It's saying booked right there. I should check that. That's probably my security policy. And then you would have another one over here, and there's the meeting right there. Now, let me show you how you would set that up in your security policy. And I think I'm tied in here to the standard security policy. So instead of going to the groups, you're going to go to the policy, and it's an option right here that says allow copy events. So you need to have this checked to get the icon turned on. And then it's going to follow the same rules that apply to to whatever they're copying. So what I mean by that is if an event planner put them in a very secret space, they're not going to be able to copy that because they don't have access to that in their normal policy. So, but that's how you do it.
All right. So there's another question here that wants to know the difference. What's the difference between the activity log and managed tasks?
Well, those two are apples and oranges. So, um, first of all, you have to use tasks before managed tasks becomes useful. Um, I'll just give you a little outline on tasks. Tasks are to-dos that you can automatically assign to events as the events are created either by the requester or an event planner. And you would get to those over here. So here's some examples of a task: finalize a contract, follow up on an inquiry. These are tasks that can be automatically assigned and attached to an event or to a booking and even to an organization. And then the triggers, much like event questions, you can have different triggers. So if you're adding a service, and I would guess final catering count would be a catering service provider, um, that task would be added if the event had catering on it. And then you're going to say who's responsible for this. So there's a little configuration who's going to be responsible for this task. And these are your event planners. These aren't requesters. These are all event planner staff you can pick from there. So once you have it set up, um, tasks are automatically assigned to events as they're created. And then the question is, well, how do you find these? Well, under data glance, you can come in here and there's one called My Task, and you can see clearly that I am way behind on performing any of my catering counts here. But these are tasks under data glance that are assigned to me. And so this has kind of got blinders on. I want to see everything that's assigned to me. So that's my tasks. Managed tasks is more for an administrator or event planner to say, well, I want to follow up on my staff and see what they're doing. So if I came in here and said, well, let me look for Brian and Chris and Claire, I want to see all of their tasks that are open for this month. And if I hit search, these are all of the tasks that are assigned to these other users that I just selected. And so managed tasks is kind of a way to view, is everybody following up on their to-dos? So that's what managed tasks are. The apples and oranges part of that would be activity log. They really don't go together. Activity log is trying to tell you, find me all of the bookings that were added or changed within a certain time frame. And so by default, it comes up and says, find me everything that was all the activity today. So that's something was added today or something was changed today. And I don't care when the booking occurs. I want to know when it was changed or added today. So I'm going to open that up just a little bit because I don't think I've done much in Brian's demo database here for today. So I'm looking for all activity in the last 7 days, regardless of the booking date. So I could have changed something on a booking a year from now and it would show up. If I'm only concerned about things in the near term, I want to find all changes to things that are occurring next week. I could filter it even tighter by this booking date. But I'm going to leave it open just for purposes here of seeing what we've got. And when I hit search, this is going to pull up all of the bookings that were added or changed within the last 7 days. And so if we look over here, this thing was created and the activity type is new. If I scroll down through here, Brian's been very busy in the last 7 days.
Yes.
So we scroll towards the bottom.
Scroll a ways.
Scroll. And way down here at the bottom, you'll see things that were changed. Okay, so this particular ABC meeting was changed. So that's probably a critical booking change on that event that was changed within the last 7 days. So a couple things you can do here. So this is actually pretty useful if you wanted to find out, well, I want to know what, Claire did in this system. You could actually come in here and I believe you can filter this to a user. I want to see Claire's activity. So if I come in here and type in Claire and pick Claire, and just this is her requester. Let's see if she's done anything in the last few days. So these are all events that were touched by Claire in the last 7 days for any booking at any time. Okay, so she's added some new stuff. She added this debate club meeting. Looks like she's added a couple things there. So it's pretty useful if you're trying to figure out who's doing what. That's one thing you can do. You've got all these other filters that you can put in here. So you can do it by status, by location, things like that. So it's pretty useful. You can also take this down to the service provider level and see what services Claire has touched in the last 7 days. Again, you can change those. And here's all of the things she's done here. So she added facilities in the student center on that date. So you can it expands it down to the resource level. So pretty useful for tracking how did something get changed. So, okay.
Great. So I'm going to warn you, Dean, this next one I know is a little sensitive for you, but I'm going to ask this question anyways. How many bookings should we have per event? Is there a
Two.
recommended number?
Two. No. The system will let you create. So what Brian's actually referring to, let me pull up that debate club meeting. What's a good number of bookings here? And we've got old bookings. It's kind of up to you. There's no limit. There's no physical hard limit of the number of bookings. However, we would probably recommend that you keep this in the hundreds. Recently, we've had a couple of folks get this up into the 7,000 bookings on one event. And to me, they were booking one example, they were booking summers and closing every room in a building, 170 rooms all summer for each summer in the next 5 years. So that seemed like an excessive amount. To break that down, you could have created one event for each summer and done the same thing, and it would have been a more manageable number. Uh, my disagreement with going out 5 years in advance, it's like, well, do you really want to block those rooms in 5 years? Are you sure you're going to do business 5 years from now like you're doing today? So I wouldn't go too far out there. If you're trying to block space, for maintenance and things like that, and you want to take a room offline for a year, well, that's only 365 bookings. So that's completely manageable. If you want to take 10 rooms offline, I might suggest, well, could you do one event per room? So there's no hard and fast rule. The way it manifests itself, if you had 5,000 bookings, when you open this event, it's going to feel like it's locked up and it's building all of the components of this display. And then it gets compounded if you add resources on there, things like that. So it's just your tolerance for load time. I mean, I'd probably say 300 to 500 is where I would say the max is. But if you needed to go higher than that, you can. I just certainly wouldn't go in the thousands. It'll let you today. We're looking at maybe warning you that you're creating an event that's got too many. So, but anyway, there's my question, my answer.
Yep. All right. This next one here, can I ask for multiple answers for a question?
Clearly, you can today. In the recent release that we just put out, you can create a question that you can ask more than one. You can have, here's the answers, and your requester can pick more than one answer. So the way you'd set that up, and I'll just create a test question here. And I'm going to trigger that on location, and I want it to go to my student center. And then I want to request specific answers. And I'm just going to make this up. It's like I want answer, option one. I'm going to add that, and I want another one here called option two. You can see my consistency there. Don't do what I do. Three. Now, normally, if you don't do anything else, the requester is going to have to pick one of those answers and only one. This is the secret. This was just introduced. Allow the user to select multiple answers. And so now when that question is prompted, they'll be able to pick more than one answer. So let's show you how that looks. I'm just going to put a test event in here. I'll just call it meeting. Event type film sounds great. Basket weavers, my favorite group. Next. And then I'm going to go here, let me go 9 o'clock to 10 a.m. We'll go out next week. We're going to pick something here. We'll pick the Bellator Gallery, say it's theater. It's really the last screen I'm trying to get to here. Skip that. So here's my question. Option one or option three? So they can now answer those questions. And I'll just put test in there. Now that creates the event. And that's my Bellator Gallery there. So let's go open that up and see what that looks like. That question when it comes into the event editor here. And here's the test question. And the answers are just there. It's comma separated. So it was option one, comma option three. So that's the way it would look to the event planner when that question comes in. If they wanted to modify that, because an event planner can, at this point, it's just a text field that you could append things to as well. So that's the way it works. A couple of caveats with event questions that have multiple choices. It's things that depend on the answer to a question. And so when you create a question, you can say, do you have a certificate of insurance? And this is yes or no. Then you can ask, well, please upload if they answered yes. You can't create a dependent question on a multiple choice question. So then the other place that we kind of limit you is on approvals. You can create an approval based on an event question, the answer to one. And so it's here, the event question, but it's only going to let you pick the ones that are individual answers. You can't pick one that's a text, and it can't be a multiple choice. So there's a few restrictions on using those, but we think that's going to be minor in the grand scheme of things. So that's how you use that new feature. So,
All right. Thank you. And I just wanted to encourage everybody again, if you do have any questions or if this has spurred any questions as you've been watching this, please do enter them in the chat or just signal us and you can unmute yourself and ask your question that way. So I do want to encourage people to ask their questions. Okay, so with that said, the next one is, how do we help our users find Mazévo and log in? You have any thoughts on that, Dean?
yeah, yes, I do. So let me log out here. We've got a few things that you can do. And if I go in here and log out, you'll get me back to the login screen. So right here, well, even on this screen right here, if you want, you could have us create you what's called a vanity URL, and that would give you the ability to put additional help text and your logo on this screen. Now, Brian, I think you have one, don't you? Is it?
Yeah, if you type in Brian demo, all one word, .mymazevo. Yeah, there you go.
So this is what you can do if, and that we say vanity, this little prefix in front of my Mazévo has got to be unique for all of our customers. So, the folks from MIT, you can't all be MIT at my Mazévo. It would have to be MIT Athletics or whatever. Same with Washington. I see UW on here as well. But this page is kind of branded. So this is going to be your logo and not the Mazévo logo because that's coming off of account settings. And then you get to put these messages up here and you can put links on it. So this is where you could explain to them if you need help, contact us or send us
Should be
an
an all
email.
day or an always thing, not just a costume.
Yep.
If you're not using SSO, and about half of the people use it and half don't. For the folks that don't use SSO, you have the option for this request an account. And what that would do is allow a non-university person, if you will, somebody that's not in your system to request an account. And you would be then notified as the administrator that you've got some accounts that need to be reviewed. So that's one way to do it. Now, if I go in here and I get this far, so that went too fast. Let me log out one more time. Let me just go here. I'm going to get off the branded site so I can get there. We put this on here. So here's what happens from the Mazévo perspective. You'll tell your brand new user, will go log in at Mazévo, and they'll stumble around and they won't know how to log in, or they might not have an account. So for the longest time, your new users and the ones that are really crafty will go out and search the internet for Mazévo, and they end up at our marketing site, and they would put in a request to see a demo from us, like a sales presentation. So what we did is we kind of short circuited that and said, well, if you need help, click here. And this is going to bring up a page, and we ask them a little bit of information. And this comes in as a support ticket to us. And then we turn around and we redirect them because, again, they'll put their Gmail in here and we have no idea which school they're trying to get to. So if you had that vanity URL, that you could put your own instructions up there, but they would still be able to get to this page if they're completely lost. But we try to navigate those users and send them back. We typically send them to the primary contact at the customer site. And I know there's some of our customers out there that have a email address for their reservation department or something. If we can find that or we know it, we'll redirect that user to that, reservations office email. So if you want a vanity URL, let us know. There's no charge for it. We just need to pick one, and then you would have to communicate to your users to start using that vanity URL. And then you can put stuff in there. So let me go back to Brian's here. And I'll go ahead and log in. I use my little password screen here. So I get in here. Now, if you have a vanity URL, you're going to go to account settings. So you have to be a global administrator to get to this. And in account settings, you have this request an account. So if you turn on requesting, and here is the login message and a requester support message. So you can put things in here that'll show up on that vanity page, and you're kind of in control of that. And like I said, the logo is whatever's here. So in Brian's database, it's the Mazévo logo. But these are only exposed when you're coming into Mazévo through that vanity URL. So let us know if you want one. it would help out because you could put something in here. Hey, if you're having problems logging in, contact us at, mureservations dot, whatever. So, anyway, some thoughts on that. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And I will add too, for those of you that are on SSO and you're thinking, hey, yeah, I want that vanity URL. You can use the vanity URL with SSO, but there are some things that make it a little less than desirable for a new user. The first time a user logs in today with SSO, and they're brand new, they would have to log in twice, only the first time, but they have to do it twice. That's a limitation of our vanity URL that we know about. We're working on addressing it right now, and I think that's going to be taken care of probably in the next few weeks or so. But just know that that's something we're kind of working on. We are aware of that issue with it, but yeah, we're going to start encouraging people more to do the vanity URL because it's just one more way you can communicate with your user base that way. So, all right. And let's see here. I see a question has come in. I'm going to get back to that one here in a second. But in the meantime, Dean, I did have another one queued up here. How do you find bookings on a disabled room?
Okay. Well, in coming up with an answer for this question, I can tell you one thing here. So let me go disable a room. Um, and let me just a Bellator gallery. Let me go in here and I'm going to disable it. Don't worry about this deleted. That's only for us here at Mazévo. We're the only ones that see that. So I hit save. Now that room is disabled. So if I come back out here to find events and I say I want to look for the Bellator gallery, it's not in here because it is disabled. So find events would only let you look for active rooms. So the other thing you can do here is you can go to the event list. And if you filter this by room, at the bottom of the list here, so these are actually sorted alphabetically, but what you don't see is they're sorted by show me active rooms first, and at the bottom, show me inactive rooms. So I can come down here and report on the Bellator gallery for everything, this month. And I want to see it. I might just take statuses off. And so that's going to bring me everything in that room. So that's the quick way to do it is just use the event list. It's already on our roadmap. I want to open that up and do that same technique here on specific room. We'll put them at the bottom so you're not stumbling through them. But that's what we would do. But most of your reports you can run that way just by filtering by room if you wanted to. So, okay.
All right. And Dean, we had a question come in from Abigail here. She's wondering if there's a way to automatically send customers a reminder that they have an event coming up. And she specifically wants to know about this for recurring events that have recurring bookings. She has a customer that has an event, say once a month, and she wants to send them out an email before that monthly booking each month that says, hey, don't forget you got a booking with us in a few days or something like that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Abigail, yeah, here's how you're going to do that. So you're going to go into settings and you're going to create a scheduled email. And I'll just add one here and I'll just call this reminder. And the reply to email. So this is a new feature. If you send this email to your requester and they reply to it, it's going to go to My Mazévo and it just gets thrown away. If you want them, you can put an email address. So if they hit reply to this thing, this is your reminder. So you can put anything in here that you want. And then you can put in here, hey, you have a booking tomorrow. Okay, and then the trigger. So here you're probably going to send that to the primary contact. The trigger is going to be, you can trigger it based on location. So if there's only certain locations you want, or you always want it, again, you've got event type in here. So let's just do location, and I'll say it's in the student center. This is where the magic happens right here. Scheduled for 2 days, and now you change this before the event or after the event. So that's going to give you one email for that recurring event. That's not what you wanted. That's not the way the question was worded. You want it before each booking. Okay, now there's a difference here. There's another one here. So this would give you, if you had a monthly meeting, you're going to get 12 emails, one email per booking, 2 days before each booking. Now, if you have a more complicated scenario where they might be booking multiple rooms on an event, 3 on the first day, 3 on the second day, and you still wanted to do this reminder, this would consolidate the email to one email per day per event. So again, if you had multiple rooms, a little bit bigger kind of conferencey thing, that would be the option you'd want. But it's really before each booking is the answer you want there. And you can also limit that to statuses. You probably want that in a confirmed status, but again, you can pick more than one. And when you save that,
So,
that scheduled email is what you're
yeah,
going to
Dean, I want you to point out that details tab, those variables, so they can format that email.
Okay. So when you're in here, you have a booking and it's probably not tomorrow on, right? And if you want to fill in the date there, there's this, you can click on this, and this is going to pull up a way that you can come in here, and I'm going to just copy it. And that's what I'd recommend. You copy this crazy little replacement code. So if you've ever done word merge in Microsoft Word, you might have seen something similar to this, but you come in here and say you have a booking on, and then it's curly bracket, booking date. It's case sensitive, so that's why I would suggest copying the field right here, and then pasting it in here. Now you can use those variables in the message or in the subject, okay? And those variables will differ based upon the trigger over here. So if you said before the event, you're going to get a couple of different things for variables than before each booking, okay? So, Abigail, did that answer your question? Hopefully it did.
Made her cry.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make.
I don't know if that's a
Tears
good
of
way or a
joy,
bad
yes.
way.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Dean, another question is rolled in here from Amanda. She's asking, they're kind of getting started with doing requests through Mazévo, and she has a question on looking at the day at a glance, the requests that come in that need to be approved. Can you talk about how those are queued up in there and how far out into the future she can see? She specifically just wants to know, is this going to show me stuff 30 days from now, 90 days from now, things like that?
Good question. So day at a glance, it automatically is taking me to the request page. And why is it doing that? So if I click here and I go to settings, this is how you configure your day at a glance. So the tools that are underneath that hamburger menu, those are the ones I have checked. And the one that comes up automatically is my favorite. Okay. So if I wanted my task to come up first, I could do that. Or, unanswered questions. But most people that are doing requests, somebody's going to want that as their favorite. Okay. So that's how you configure it. What happens here is this display is going to show you all of your requests. And if you're using secondary approvals, it then also groups things by this secondary approval. And then in this case, all of the secondary approvals for the debate club meeting have been approved. this particular meeting here, so they've been approved, there's a grouping for denied, there's a grouping for there are no approvals, and then there's this bucket here, this waiting for secondary approval activation. If you're using secondary approvals, these are really your new requests that you need to go look at. So Brian's meeting here is a request that came in yesterday. It's still in a request status. And so when we click on that, the awaiting approval, so here it is, and you can look at this and change it and do anything you want, but to trigger the secondary approvals, you're going to activate them. And then that puts it in that other bucket of waiting for approvals. It'll be actually another bucket. So, but if you're not using approvals, this is just going to be a chronological list in order that they came in, oldest at the top, newest at the bottom. And for whatever, we'll find this. Some people will filter this. And they're like, there's no approval. So you just want to make sure you set your filters here properly. So, but did that answer your question?
Hey, Dean, this is Amanda. Thank you for touching on this. The issue I was having was that I have an event for today and one for Saturday, but the one for Saturday wouldn't come up, and I couldn't find a way to approve it, and it wasn't listed here in day at a glance. Only the one for today was.
It actually goes out into the future. I'll have to dig up how many days. I would say it's probably 30 days, if not further. So something next week should be on here. What would keep it from showing? The first thing I would say is if it's been approved or it's not in a pending status, it's not going to show under requests. Okay. So status could be one of the issues why that's not there. So if somebody went in and put it in confirmed events do not show under this request option here. Okay. So you'd have to look for those under find events. Another thing you could do here, you can actually pick your statuses, but you're only going to be able to pick if you had more than one status that was flagged as pending, you may want to pick all of your request statuses here. So it could be this, it's getting filtered out. It could also be this location up here. So again, if you filtered it to a particular building and that one next week is in another building that you don't have here, that could be what the problem is, but it should show. So if you can't find it, send me an email or put in a support ticket and I'll jump on a call with you. So
Thanks, Dean. Appreciate it.
I also want to welcome, we have a witch that just joined on board here, Wendy Newland, one of our trainers. She is all dressed up. She is ready to go for Halloween. Love it. Welcome, Wendy. All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're getting kind of down to the end. Again, I encourage folks to keep your questions coming in if you do have any. I've got another question that was queued up here. Somebody was asking if we have any recommendations of a good diagramming software in your experience. Now, I know we have several people on this call that are probably using various room diagramming systems. If you want to put in the chat, if you like the room diagramming system, or maybe even if you don't like it, that's fine. Just, let people know. We definitely hear about room diagramming systems on this side, just from our speaking with our customers, but we're also not using them every day. So we're not usually the best ones to go to and say, oh yeah, this one's the best, or, something like that. The ones that we've heard of are things like social tables and all seated. Those seem to be the names that we keep hearing over and over again. I think they're out there quite a bit. Back in the day, there were some older systems like Meeting Matrix, Room Viewer, Optimum Settings. Was that one, Dean? I think that was another one. Those are some old school ones though, before all this web-based stuff and everything. But no, I mean, social tables is still out there a lot. But yeah, if you have any opinion on that one way or the other, I would definitely tell you to put it in the chat because yeah, it would be just great to hear people's feedback on that. So That leads me into our next question. This one Joe was going to take. This one is my service manager needs to see setup diagrams for the events that they need to set up. How do I share diagrams with him? Do you want to go through that?
Sure, Brian. Thanks.
Mhm.
I will share my screen. All right, everybody. So as Brian said there with regards to diagrams, we always like to put our room setup diagrams and things on bookings. And just to make sure that everybody knows that there is a specific place for those. It's not just a normal document to upload with your event, but it is actually that you can upload a room diagram or setup diagram to each booking. You can do to multiples, or you can do it to an individual one. And so that's where I'm going to start, just to make sure that everybody's making sure they're putting it in the right place. And that is under this change booking for change setup diagram. This will give you the place where you can upload. Now, we do have the two options. One is a link. So if you have a software like Social Tables that provides you a link to it, you can put a URL link in there, or you can attach the actual physical document, which is what I have done here on this event with 2 bookings. And so the first thing about how do people see this diagram is I'm on the actual event, and this first booking in Huddle Room 210 has a room setup diagram because I can see the little icon here. And you can, this little icon is what you want to be looking for in the other places that I'm going to show you as well. But when you click on that, it will open up that image that you have uploaded. So this can be whichever you may need. Now, not all of your service people are in here in the event editor. So they need to be able to see that. So I'm going to show you 2 other places. And one we've touched on a little bit already this morning, which is called the Manage Operations. And under Manage Operations, under the bookings area, you can see that same little icon. So I've just preset my dates and everything so that I could quickly click over to them. But this has that diagram link as well. So it's going to upload that same thing for them. Okay. Now, the other place is if you do your daily operations report. So if you're not using Manage Operations, but you do have your people look or open up the daily operations reports, then they can actually see those diagrams from here as well. You can see that I've gone to my date where my event is, and this booking does not have a diagram. This one does not, but this one does. It's not the same icon, but it is a room diagram text, and it is a link to that. And this will then open up that image within a new browser tab for you. Okay. So those are the multiple ways to find those room diagrams once you have loaded them. Okay. Again, you've got different people, different operations, different things. So I try to make sure you can get all of those down.
All right. Thanks, Joe. And if anybody's wondering if something looks a little different on Joe's screen and why are all the buttons purple and everything, it's not just because it's Halloween. You might be thinking that, but Joe has actually been doing some testing of our branding module. This is something that's relatively new. You can actually, this is a paid add-on, but you can add this branding module to your Mazévo system, which lets you change the colors and the logo. Now, Joe hasn't changed the logo up here, so it's still got the Mazévo logo, but essentially that module lets you just replace the Mazévo logo everywhere in the system and put your own logo up there and really brand it for your organization. So if that's something you're interested in, just let us know and we can get you some details on that. But
yes, that's
we're
right,
getting
Brian.
close.
I forgot about that.
That's all right. That's okay. No problem.
Good way.
I know we're getting close on our time. We do have just a couple other questions queued up here, so I am going to go ahead and read through those. Totally understand if anybody needs to drop off, though. as we approach the top of the hour here, but I'm only seeing a couple more in here that we need to get to today. So we'll just kind of keep rolling here and get those done. So this next question is why are my rooms not available for requesters when they look open for me? You want to talk about that?
All right, so I'm going to take this one as well. Typically, what I've found with my customers that have called in with this problem, it's that they've recently created a new room or something like that. So what has happened most of the time that I've found, again, is that under the security policies and their security groups over here, they have not actually assigned the room to an actual security group set of rules. So they forget that they have to go in and do that once they add a new room. Okay. So that's one of the primary things that I've found the users forgetting when they've done a configuration or so. And that's when the requester cannot see the room, but you as an admin can, and it does look open. All right, so that's one thing. Now, the other item is typically that the room is not available to the requester. A lot of times it's because they're trying to make a request for, I'll use my event book here to show you that they have a room that they want to click and have their event on, and it starts here at 7 a.m. You can see my building hours here, close off the building before 7 a.m. And if they click to start that event right at 7 a.m., but if I go over and look at those rooms, they have a setup and tear down time on them, and that's 30 minutes. So that's off over here. Here's my event spaces. They have a 30-minute. So the system is going to see that 30 minutes I need to block, but that is into my building closure time. So it won't allow those requesters to actually make the request for those rooms. They look unavailable. Okay. Now, with that said, we have just introduced recently a tenant setting where we can disable that action of looking and utilizing that setup teardown time in that searching for a room as a requester. So when you do that, just remember that's a tenant setting, so it impacts all of your tenants, users, not just a security policy or so. Okay. I think that was the main two pieces, right? Is there anything else, Dean?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Just to bring that up, the system for years has worked where that behavior did not occur. So it would let somebody start this at 7 o'clock, even though the room might have 2 hours of setup. We recently changed that like 2 weeks ago, and that upset the apple cart with a few people. And so we've introduced this way that we can turn that feature on and off. It's on for everybody, with the exception of if you've called and said, hey, my requester can't book that space. It's typically because of that setup time on the room. Just let us know. It takes a minute to change that, and we can get that in, and then you're set. So it'll go back to the way it used to be. So
Cool.
All right. We did have another question roll in here from Ashley. She's asking if there's any reports besides the daily operations report that people can see the customer access time on. And I'll take the first crack at this one, and then Dean, Joe, feel free to hop in. But the daily operations report's the main way your setup folks are going to see if there's customer access time on there. The other way, of course, is through operations. So if they're used to using ops on their phone or something, they're going to see customer access time on there. But I believe those are the only two like standard areas. You can also bring it up if you're doing more of like a custom report using find events, where you go into advanced find events. You also bring up customer access time in there as well, just as an extra field that you want to display. But to my knowledge, those are the only areas that we show customer access time. The one area also that I will mention in addition is on the confirmation, the customer will see customer access time on there. So if you've added it on their confirmation, they will see it. But as far as your operations staff goes, those are the only ones that I believe are out there, unless Dean or Joe, you have anything else.
I think that's it. So
Yeah.
Great. All right. Okay, and then we're down to our last question here. This one I think Joe's going to take again. If I have a very large event and I just need to change the room on the Mondays that event happens, what's the best way to change it or to find all the Mondays? Right now I'm scrolling through and selecting, checking the box next to each Monday booking, and I'm afraid I'm going to miss one.
Mhm. Great. Yes, this is a feature that a lot of people really kind of miss. I'm going to use this event here. I believe it's my one. I'm going to open this one up, and this one has basically a lot of bookings on it across the multiple days. I think I did one for every day. So this one has 219, so I'm under Dean's 300 to 500 requirement bookings. And you can see I have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, This is going to blow you away when you just simply say, let me type in MON, and I quickly see 43 bookings. I check that, and now I can change whatever I need to or make whatever accommodations, edits to any of those bookings. This little search feature up here really works on more than just one of the data fields here. And that's a great way to where you can make sure that you don't have to go down the list and check off each one. And sometimes the clicking of that, I know, is hard to kind of go when you scroll in multiple pages. So you can see I take that out, and now I can still see my bookings are still all selected on Monday, all the way down. And then whatever change I need to make, maybe I need to change times and put some customer access time in front of that, boom, and then it'll make the change on all of those.
Right. Nice one
Okay.
there, Joe. I'll give you a round of applause for that. I know that's a huge time saver for a lot of people. So good stuff. All right. Well, that's all the questions that we had. Let me just make sure here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. JC's
JC.
that's a game changer right there. There it is. Yes. So if you stuck around this long, that hopefully that was useful for you. So that's all the questions that we had here today. Thanks to those of you that stuck on through the whole thing here. Happy Halloween to everybody. Stay tuned for next month's Mazévo Connect, or it'll be December's. But anyways, thanks for participating today, and we'll look forward to talking to y'all soon.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.